Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Tuesday, July 19th. This week, heat will continue across the Great Basin, and after the cold front yesterday cooled down temperatures briefly in Idaho, we will see that heat return to the north. Today will be our last day of scattered thunderstorms across Nevada and Utah, and much of these thunderstorms again will remain on the wetter side, with still possibly some drier storms on the fringes. Otherwise, lightning activity will decrease over the next couple of days as drier air moves in. We will also have the winds pick up over parts of central and eastern Idaho, which will certainly affect any ongoing incidents up there. Thursday, winds may pick up a little bit along the Sierra front with a slightly enhanced zephyr. Precipitation over the last 24 hours has been tied to the thunderstorm activity, with the wetter conditions over southern Nevada into central and western Utah, with more isolated activity further west into Nevada. Great Basin activity yesterday was light to moderate. However, we did have one new large fire over the Snake River Plain in south central Idaho, which was in the grasses and driven by the wind. Otherwise, our large fires continue over central Idaho and into northeast Nevada and Utah. Over the last 7 to 14 days, precipitation has been focused still over the eastern half of the Great Basin with the monsoon moisture and predominantly across Utah and over far eastern Nevada. Still, the very dry spots continue over central and western Idaho and over western and northwest Nevada, where fuels will continually become more critical with the hot and dry conditions. 100-hour fuel moistures have definitely decreased over western and northern Nevada into southwest Idaho with these very dry conditions and are quite critical. We have had some improvements to southern and eastern Nevada and Utah, obviously with the moisture in place. Our satellite loop from this morning still shows high pressure dominating across the Four Corners area, and that cold front that brought the cooler temperatures and wind to Idaho yesterday has moved well to the east, so we will see a decrease in winds under the ridge, along with hot and dry conditions. Later this afternoon, again, the moisture is in place over central and eastern Nevada into Utah for another day of scattered thunderstorms. We do not have any high risk for significant fire potential, as these thunderstorms again will be on the wetter side and winds will have decreased from what we saw yesterday. So again, thunderstorms mainly over eastern Nevada. Could certainly see some activity up towards the Wildcat and over towards our fires in Utah, and some isolated thunderstorms on the west side towards the Sierra front. Wind gust again will decrease from what we saw yesterday, but still remain breezy with westerly winds generally in the teens to low 20s up over central Idaho near our large fires, and certainly much lighter further south. Relative humidity will drop and still remain in the single digits to low teens near the Moose Fire in central Idaho, and otherwise drier conditions over southern Idaho with still higher humidity over eastern Nevada and Utah as the monsoon moisture remains in place today. As we move into Wednesday, the deeper moisture is pushed to the east, so isolated activity for thunderstorms, so we will see lightning coverage decrease, but still some isolated activity in eastern Nevada and Utah with very dry conditions up into Idaho. So we will have lower daytime humidity and poor overnight recoveries for our fires in Idaho. No significant fire potential or high risk, generally low to moderate risk, again still very dry over northern and western areas. Relative humidity again remains in the teens across most areas, some single digits over northwest Nevada and central Idaho. Winds, again Wednesday, might pick up a little bit from what we'll see today over central Idaho and south central Idaho, however certainly not as gusty as what we saw yesterday. As we move into Thursday, similar pattern, decreasing moisture, drier conditions, and very dry up in Idaho and northwest Nevada with no high risk. Relative humidity will be dropping to the single digits over much of the western half of Nevada and up into Idaho and even over parts of southern Nevada. The zephyr winds may pick up a little bit on Thursday, but still mostly gusts in the 20s to right around 30 miles per hour. Forecast amounts of precipitation will mainly occur today over eastern Nevada, central Nevada, and over into Utah with those thunderstorm activity. And then as we move into Friday into the weekend, we'll likely see a slight return of moisture, still fairly isolated storms on Friday. We do have a weak disturbance pushing into Idaho on Friday, so we will see one day of some cooler temperatures across Idaho. However, they will quickly heat up and certainly not expecting any moisture up there. So you will see on our significant fire potential map a lot more brown showing that moderate fire potential as fuels continually dry. As we move into Saturday and Sunday, a little bit more moisture moves into southern and eastern Utah, so we will likely see an uptick in lightning activity in those areas, however still on the wetter side. Otherwise, still very dry for Idaho and western Nevada, so still looking at continued low daytime humidities, poor overnight recoveries, and fuels quickly drying even further in those areas. So we move into Monday, still that moisture in place in the far south, so still those wetter thunderstorms and drier conditions over western and northern areas. Could see winds pick up as we go into the early part of next week with a trough passing by to the north. So especially if we see those windy conditions in Idaho or even parts of Nevada, that certainly would be a concern after the very long period of hot and dry conditions and our current fire activity. 7-day total precip, you can obviously see the increase in precipitation in the Arizona Strip, parts of central and eastern Utah, especially as we go into this weekend and early next week as that moisture returns to those areas. Otherwise, the 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from July 26th through August 1st, still shows hot and dry conditions, especially across Idaho, and the moisture associated with the monsoon might push a little bit further west. So especially as we approach the early part of August, we may have a better potential of seeing these thunderstorms move into western and northwest Nevada, again, which would be very critical, especially if they're on the drier side with those very dry fuels that we've seen recently, and we'll continue to see for the next couple of weeks. And obviously up into Idaho, no relief in sight. We'll just continue with those hot and dry conditions. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.